sporting moments.
5 Live Sports All About podcast.
Listen on BBC Sounds. Now, back to your podcast.
5 Live Boxing.
Welcome to the post-fight pod. I'm outside the T-Mobile now in the shadow of the Park MGM. And just had a few seconds to collect myself. Tyson Fury has retained his WBC heavyweight title with an 11th round stoppage stroke knockout of Deontay Wilder. That does not cover what we witnessed in that ring this evening. Deontay Wilder started sharp. I thought he won the first. He probably even nicked the second. And then in the third, Tyson turned it around and dropped Wilder. But then in the fourth, Wilder turned it completely around and dropped Fury, not once, but twice. And Fury was hurt. Fury came out for the fifth round. His eyes were glazed. I didn't think he'd get through the round. He did, and he probably won that round. And then in the sixth and the seventh and the eighth, he was winning those rounds, but he kept getting cool. The doctor actually went up into Wilder's corner 4 times to check if he was okay. And he said he was. Wilder said he was. There was blood coming from his mouth. He was swinging his punches from the floor, but the referee let it continue. Every now and again, he would catch Fury. And then in the 10th, Fury dropped him. Once again, the doctor went up to inspect. He said it was okay. And then in the 11th round, Fury finally finished it. And it was a nasty ending. The referee didn't even bother with a count. The extraordinary fight was over. And it was breathtaking to watch. It was a privilege to witness. I'll break that down in a little bit more detail later on with Richie Woodall, but I wanted to grab hold of Tyson Fury. I wanted to get a flavour of what he felt about the most extraordinary fight. So I made my way through different tunnels into Tyson Fury's dressing room. There was music. There was Tommy Fury. There was Lennox Lewis. There was Tyson's wife, Paris. Tyson was in the shower. There was celebration in there, pure joy. There was also an awful lot of chaos. Now, young Jack didn't make that particular journey with me. He was waiting down the corridor. So I've sent young Jack off with whatever happened in that dressing room and whatever I managed to record and however it sounds. Hopefully, it'll make some kind of sense. Just take it from me. It was joyous. So there's music on Capitilla. Tim's happy. Tommy's turned it up. It's happening. Right, Tommy boy. Tommy, happy boy.
Yes. Oh, hey?
Happy with it? You delighted with it?
Oh, delighted, honestly. It's the best to ever do it. The best to ever do it. Ever.
Is this the most amazing atmosphere you've ever known?
What do you think? Can you tell me a better atmosphere?
This is off the scale.
This is off the scale, mate. This is off the scale. I'm just going to enjoy it and soak it all in. What a man. What a man.
Enjoy it, Tommy.
Thank you.
Thanks. Great talking to you. So let me just grab a quick word with Joseph Parker if I can. Big Joe, how are you, man? Yeah, good. Joe, you've watched great fights on TV. You've watched great fights. You've been in 1 or 2 good ones. Where do you start to describe what we saw in the ring there, man?
I think I'm a bit lost for words. It's a trilogy, and it was just one of the most exciting trilogies I've ever seen. Like, I don't know, like it was incredible. Both men showed a lot of heart. Both men gave it everything they had, but the best man came out on top today, Gypsy King.
And they just felt like tomorrow didn't matter. It was just about today.
Listen, they gave it everything from the first round onwards. And when you have 2 fighters giving it everything from the beginning, that makes for a great, great, great fight.
Joseph, thanks so much. We'll speak to you when you get to England for your next fight. It's always a pleasure talking to Big Joseph Parker. One of my favourite people. I'm not saying that because he's here. He's one of my favourite fight people. Yeah. Tyson's just emerged from the shower. He's got his shorts on. He's shadow boxing. There's whistles and cheers of his family and friends. Lennox Lewis has just walked in, and I'm stuck here. Tyson Fury's in front of me doing one interview. Paris' wife's to my right. Lennox Lewis is to my left. Tyson, just one second. I know you're bad, but Sugar Hill was instrumental. I didn't get to ask you that in the ring, man, but I've looked at it, and I've looked at you looking at him. It was instrumental.
I was listening to what he was saying in round 9, 10, and 11, and he was like, this should be done now. Get him out of here. And he was like, the big dog gets him out of there in these late rounds.
And that was right, wasn't it? The big dog gets him out. That's what you meant to do if you're a champion.
Exactly, and that's what you meant to do. It was a good fight from both fighters, and that's it.
You're exhausted, aren't you?
I'm all right, I could go another 12, not a problem. Fit as a fiddle, healthy as the trout.
Looking to get back?
Even managed to get a little song in the end there.
A good song in the end there.
Yeah, good little song.
Looking forward to getting home?
Looking forward to getting home. I've been home 2 weeks in the last 6 months.
It's been an emotional year.
It has, and we're going to enjoy it now. Fury family's going to have a good Christmas.
Everybody is so proud of you, you know that, don't you?
Thank you very much. I appreciate all the support.
I mean it from the bottom up, from people you've known for years to people you've just made friends with yesterday.
Thank you very much, Steve. Appreciate the support all through the years. From back in the Errol Flynn days till the Beast from the West days. The big bald. I used to be a handsome rogue. Now I'm just a bald-headed fat fella who can fight like King Kong.
You're still a handsome rogue, big boy.
I don't know about that. I'm definitely a rogue. I don't know about handsome.
Tyson, thanks so much for your time. Get rehydrated. Thank you. Sugar Hill, you're on the table, man. You're in a great position. You're getting the praise, you're getting the love. It was an extraordinary fight. An extraordinary fight, Sugar Hill.
I believe this. I feel the same way you do. Extraordinary fight. Very historic fight for both men. For Deontay Wilder showing his toughness and courage and everything, and for Tyson Fury being a big dog and coming out on top.
And he was a big dog, but there must have been worrying moments, even though you know him and you trusted him. It was that type of fight.
It was that type of fight. Was I worried at any point? No.
You had faith in him?
Of course. I mean, it gets rough. You got to know how to dig down, change gears, and get going.
I mean, I was actually on my left shoulder was Malik Scott throughout the fight. That's where I was in that corner. That was my position. And, I was amazed that he maybe didn't consider throwing the towel in.
He knew he better not throw the towel in. That's all I got to say. The man want to go out on his shield. You respect that man's wishes. So
how proud are you of Tyson tonight?
Oh, very proud, super proud. That's why I'm standing up here so you can see me all day. I'm only 5'9", so if I stand up here, he can see me out the corner of his eye all the time.
You're being allowed to judge. Sugar, thanks so much for your time. It's been a pleasure once again. I guess the fight finished, 45 minutes ago. I'm joined by Richie Woodall, former Olympic bronze medalist, Commonwealth champion and WBC super middleweight champion. We're at the sort of back of what might be in some point in the next 2 hours a press conference. In fact, Tyson Fury's off in the distance now, coming in. So with Tyson coming in, that means it's going to be very loud, and I've already spoken to him in the ring and then also back in the dressing room, which was just one of the most beautiful, joyous scenes and celebrations I think I've ever seen. So that means that Richie and I are going to have to walk up the steps with young Jack carrying the kit to find somewhere quiet. First of all, I'm going to put something to you first of all, Rich. Anyone that tells you they knew Tyson Fury would win the 11th round, it doesn't count. Because nobody could have predicted the mayhem and the chaos and the brilliance that we saw tonight in that ring.
Yeah, incredible, absolutely incredible. I thought I was going to do okay, actually, because I'd predicted from rounds, I think, 4 to 6. And then that round 3 and 4 was just unbelievable, a roller coaster, both the rounds. But yeah, I never thought I'd actually see another contest with so much drama. Since, apart from that, the fight I'm talking about is obviously the 2018 fight, the first contest they had in that last round when he actually got up Tyson Fury. Do you remember that? It was just unbelievable. That's stuff I've made of legends.
Stuff of legends.
Do you know what I mean? But I never thought I'd ever see a contest with so much drama, and I've just seen one that's got add more drama tonight.
So, Rich, does this almost fall into a separate category? Because, I mean, it's beyond Rocky. It's beyond that last round in Los Angeles. Yeah. It's beyond other turnarounds we've seen. Yeah. And it went on for so long. Let me just remind you of roughly how you and I saw it, because I was sitting just in front of you. Yeah. We thought Wilder had a decent opening round, and it was a nice-looking Wilder. Yeah. Then we thought Fury maybe nicked the second. Yeah. Then suddenly in the third round, Fury banged Wilder over and it looked like Wilder was hurt. But then in the fourth, Fury was over twice. Saved by the bell in many ways. Yeah. He came out for the fifth looking absolutely in a state. He managed to fiddle his way through. It was brilliant, took dominance. Perhaps it should have been stopped. Perhaps it should have been stopped in the 7th, 8th or 9th. The doctor went up into the ring 4 times, Rich, because he was next to me, the doctor. He was my pal. And then suddenly in the 10th, Wilder was over again, and the 11th, when it finally finished, Wilder was over. I'm exhausted describing the fight.
Incredible. You'll probably never see that I won't say again, but I may as well say that you'll never see that again. In terms of the third round was a 10-8 round for one boxer, and then the next round
10-7.
It's a 10-7 against him.
Okay, I'm going to say this now.
I've never seen that.
In a world championship fight, I want to say this now. It's never happened because even the great AJ and Klitschko fight, which you and I were at Wembley for, as good as that was, that falls short of this. What we've seen here.
Exactly. You'll never see that probably again in a heavyweight title fight. Like I say, that was an incredible 3 and 4 rounds, and then
there's more.
There's more. Then if you could have then predicted from that point that it's going to finish in the 11th,
no chance.
You'd have just said, mate, what are you on? Because you could never have predicted the outcome.
But there were moments, Rich, and we have privileged seats, and I know we go on about being in those positions. You and I are really close. There were moments, though, in about, I think around sort of 7, 8, and even 9, when Wilder did hurt Fury.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Sometimes in the last 20 seconds. There was one point, it was right above my head, in Wilder's corner. Fury had to hold on, he got caught with a little shot.
Yes, there were rounds that he won, but there were rounds that in that midsection that Fury won. But at the same time, you're always waiting for Deontay Wilder to land what could potentially be a knockout punch. And he landed 2 or 3 of them that hurt Fury. So then he's back in it. And Wilder, I couldn't believe the look of him, because from about round 4, he looked, or 4 or 5, should I say, he looked absolutely knackered, exhausted, and the way he just comes back, weathers the storm, and then everything, it's as if he puts his heart and soul into every right hand that he throws in desperation to knock the opponent out. Talk about putting everything on the line. That's what he does in every punch he throws.
Because you were right in your commentary. In about round 6 or 7, I've got them somewhere in my notes, but my notes might as well be written underwater, with lipstick, because they just make no sense. They're chaos. You were right about rounds 5, 6, and 7 when you said Wilder's now feeling the effect of that extra 7 pounds.
Yeah.
But then he still goes another 5 rounds and he gets up twice. What's going on?
Steve, it's just incredible. But I said right from the word go, I'll stick to my guns. I always said that him coming in at 17 stone was a mistake. It really was, in my opinion, because you have to account for, if you don't knock Fury out, in my opinion, he was going to try and knock Fury out inside 4 or 5 rounds. I think that was that was inset in his head that he was going to try and knock him out 4 or 5. But if you don't knock him out after 4 or 5 rounds, then you have to go to plan B. You've then got to try and get to the end of the contest. And to get to the end of the contest, when you're carrying another 2 stone than what you normally are,
that's too much.
It's too much weight.
I agree. I mean, I'm going to go back to it, even though the rest of the rounds are incredible, they're absolutely amazing. But that first round, I like the look of that Wilder.
Oh, I thought it was great.
And you saw Tyson having a look at him.
Yeah,
he was
great.
Saw Tyson having to think a little bit, had to adjust his feet. And so Wilder got that right.
Yes.
Now, I'm going to bring up something now that, probably we should be in celebratory mode, but I'm going to bring it up. I was standing... where I was sitting, Malik Scott, the new trainer, was leaning into me because that was where he was crouched. He seemed oblivious to what the punishment his fighter was taking. He kept shouting every time Wilder did something, like just maybe moved his head.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask you this now. Should Malik Scott have pulled him out earlier or thrown a time? But also, Rich, the doctor did go up 4 times. But should Malik Scott have done something, in your opinion?
In my opinion, I don't think he should, Steve.
Good, brilliant.
In my opinion, I think the corner got that right. I think Malik Scott, for the amount of time that he's been with him, obviously knows him really, really well. And it's probably going against the grain here, because you would think that the time he spent with him, that he wouldn't know him to that degree.
Yeah.
Do you understand me? And he obviously
did,
because he kept his faith in the boxer, thinking he can still pull this out. And you know what? Right up until the end, he was still in it with a chance of landing a big shot. So I think you've got to give credit to Malik Scott there. I think he got that right. I think he should have stayed in there. For me, where Malik Scott got it wrong is putting the bulk on, conditioning him in a way where he's gone up to 17 stone. I thought that was a mistake, because I agreed that he's got the tools in the bag. He's he's got to use these tools in terms of using the jab, but surely using the jab with lighter feet, a lighter frame
would have been better.
Would have been better. And Steve, he's used to knocking guys out. Most of the opponents he has knocked out, if you look at his weight, he's been 15.5 to 16 stone. So he's been a lot lighter
so he was
anyway.
17 stone today. So in the first round, when he's throwing the big jabs to the body and trying to bring the right cross over when Fury dropped his hands, which he did occasionally, and when he looked a bit lighter on his feet because he still wasn't tired, and when he was boxing sensibly the first 2 rounds, I mean, you could have given both of those to Wilder, actually, if you want to be honest.
Yeah,
so that was the Wilder we expected. Of course, that goes belly up in the third when he gets clipped. Because also when he gets hurt, Wilder, he freezes, doesn't he, on the spot? He literally stands stock still. And allowing Tyson to then land a second or third shot.
Something happened at the end of the first round that really sort of changed the way the fight was going, because it was a great, it might have been the second round or the first round, whatever. So we see Wilder kept going to the body with that body shot, that jab, long jab, hard jab. It's a hard punch to defend against or trying to catch the opponent, because he was sort of throwing it at full range and keeping his head.
There's a lot of distance between Tyson's fist and his head.
And he's low. Yeah. He's very low, and Tyson's very tall. So unless you catch him with an uppercut, which you're not going to do because it's a bent arm shot, he's boxing at range. It was a good strategy. But it took Tyson then, probably towards the end of that round, to think, oh, right, what I've got to do with you now, mate, I've got to push you back with straight shots. And you've seen Tyson all of a sudden say, I'm not having any more of this, and went forward,
get closer, let his hands go, and then that becomes the third round and the first knockdown. And then, Tyson was right all along in some way, so was Sugar Hill. They said the moment Wilder's hurt, forget everything he's worked on for 6 months, 7 months, 8 months, 18 months. He will revert to type, and he will just go back to being Wilder. Which is a dangerous fight who throws big right hands.
Big right hands. That kid fights on instinct, that Wilder. He's very, very dangerous. And I said this to David Hay afterwards, and we spoke about it. I said, I'll tell you now, with that Deontay Wilder, he started the contest very well and looked totally different. Long jab to the body, time and again, successful with it. I said, but let me tell you this, David. I says, he has gone so long without boxing with his jab because he's knocked so many opponents out, he's forgotten how to do it, Steve.
It's not natural. It was like he was having to really try hard to throw a jab to the body.
Because
so
he's not
fluid, Rich.
It wasn't fluid. He's knocked so many guys out through his career, he's forgot how to box. Yeah. He's relied solely on that right hand of his, knockout power, phenomenal power. The kid has forgot how to box with his left hand.
Yeah, and listen, that is a fair comment. I'm going to ask you a couple of closing questions in many ways, Rich. The first one's obvious. Wilder's gone off to hospital, by the way. I just want to let everyone know that Wilder's gone off to hospital. Where does Wilder, assuming he gets an all clear, go from here?
Where does Wilder go from here? Depending on if he wants to carry on and he's still got the heart and desire to carry on at this level, I think he could maybe face the winner of Usyk and AJ in the rematch.
Because that rematch was triggered today. Actually, today it was triggered in Liverpool this afternoon.
So that if AJ can pull that, I mean, AJ and Wilder would be an absolute. AJ and Wilder for me is a more attractive fight than Usyk and Wilder.
Get one. How about this, Rich?
But Steve, it's whether he has the desire. He's just been involved in 3 of the biggest fights in heavyweight boxing history.
No. And he took a hiding in 2 of them.
And he's took a hiding in 2 of them.
Let's get it right.
And probably, never mind the draw, probably lost it. Anyway, it doesn't matter. But what I'm saying is, can he get up now? Can he rebuild mentally? I don't think he probably can. No. Physically, I think he can come back. But mentally, I don't think he can reach that height again of getting that desire back, to be honest.
And he probably needs to win those fans over. Now, one of the ways you win those fans over, Rich, is by being a good sportsman.
Yes.
Now, this might sound like a contradiction in terms for a man who's just been pummeled around the ring and dropped whatever it is 4 times. But you win, or 3 times, excuse me, you win the fans over by being a sportsman, showing some respect. Tyson Fury told me that he went over to Wilder's corner and he offered his hand, he offered his support, and he offered his praise. And Wilder rejected it, saying something along the lines of, I don't want your praise, I don't need your respect. Tyson shrugged when he told me this story, as if to say, what kind of man does that? Now, I'm stunned by that, staggered.
stunned, Steve, and very disappointed.
Disappointed, yeah.
Very disappointed, because I think Deontay Wilder has won a lot of boxing fans tonight in the heart that he's shown. But then when you hear that story, well, then that's a different kettle of fish then. And sort of people will think differently of him. As a warrior and as a fighter, he's got a lot of respect from a lot of people. But when they hear that, then they might be thinking differently of him. And I certainly am, because I thought a lot of Wilder before you told me that.
Yeah, well,
but now that's left a sour taste in my mouth.
All week long I've been banging on, like a ridiculously out-of-tune drum about this lack of respect. And this total lack of respect that he has for Tyson. And Tyson now has no respect for him, or had no respect for him going into the fight, because Wilder hadn't shown himself to be a fair fighting man. He blamed it on a million things. So today, there was an occasion today, close your eyes and picture this, Wilder gets up, embraces Fury, takes the microphone and says, "This guy's a great guy. I've been beat by the better man, but I'll be back. Wait for it. I'll be back for you, America." The place goes ballistic.
It goes mad.
Next time he fights, there won't be an empty seat in the house.
Absolutely. And you know what, Steve? That type, if we'd have got that reaction from him, that's why our sport's the best sport in the world. Because we've seen that many, many times before, when the boxers seem to hate each other beforehand, they play to the crowd, and then at the end of it, they're arm in arm, they embrace each other. That's why we love boxing. But to hear that and knowing that he has those feelings and those thoughts, that's not good.
And Rich, so the next question, don't worry, we're going to finish this soon, because our week in Vegas is nearly over, son. And it's been a good one, don't worry about it. And we've witnessed greatness in the ring tonight. Tyson Fury, where does he go from now? What does he do now? What's there for him?
You know what, Steve? I spoke about this earlier. I'm actually not worried for Tyson, but my concerns are not only for Wilder, but for Tyson as well, because how can he get up now for these really big fights? I've said to people in there, the only thing that beats Tyson for me is himself in terms of complacency. And we've seen great fighters before in the past. A person who's been here in the Lennox Lewis, who got complacent twice and got beat twice. Complacency can creep into any boxer, and that's what I wouldn't want, obviously, for Tyson Fury. So I'm a little bit worried there, because what's going to motivate him now to come back and to retain his title and defend his title? Maybe an AJ fight, something like an AJ fight. If he can beat Usyk, that would sell, and that would motivate Tyson Fury. But apart from that, I can't see what's going to motivate him. They're talking about Dillian White, but Tyson needs a good long break now, and can he come back? Break. Because for me, at the moment, the only thing that beats Tyson Fury is himself, complacency.
The WBC, this was for the WBC title, this particular fight tonight. Anthony Joshua owns the other three recognised sanctioning bodies. The WBC...
Usyk owns.
Sorry, that's a terrible Freudian. Alexander Usyk owns the other three. Boy, oh boy. Maurizio Sulaiman from the WBC, your old pal. On account of you once having, you still own a WBC belt. You've got it. Maurizio Sulaiman said this week that the winner of tonight's fight has 28 days to wait and find out if Usyk will fight Joshua in a rematch. That was triggered, so now we know that's going to happen. Right. And then so stage 2 of Maurizio Sulaiman's mandated plan, i.e. it's got to happen, is that Dillian White will finally get to fight the winner of this tonight. That winner's Tyson Fury. So in theory that takes place next year. Now that is a fight, like you're saying, can he get up for that fight? Assuming Dillian White beats Otto Wallin.
Yes.
The big guy.
Let's praise Dillian White here.
Bingo.
He thoroughly deserves his shot at the heavyweight championship of the world. The kid's been waiting a long, long time.
Too long, Richard.
So, like I said, Tyson Fury, it's a difficult fight. We know that Dillian White's a really good fighter, and, it's his shot at the title. Can Tyson Fury get up for it? I don't know whether he can, Steve. No. To be quite honest.
And you need a good break after this.
I know. And let's face it, if he doesn't get up for it, then Dillian White's a threat.
Absolutely,
he's a threat. He's a genuine threat, the kid is.
Absolutely, he's a threat. That's a really interesting thing. So, Rich, you've had a week in Las Vegas. You've seen the weigh-in, you've seen the conference, you've floated around, you've gone on your massive walks every day doing 24,000 steps, putting me to shame, walking up and down.
I did 25,000 yesterday.
25,000. Oh, I stand corrected. Walking to the Mandalay Bay, walking to the Venetian, all those other exotic places. When you sit down on a plane and you're flying home and you'll sit there and you put your feet up on that plane, I'm thinking you're going to be chuckling like you are now because we've witnessed and we've been present and privileged to be at something. How do you tell your grandkids about what you've seen in the last 90 minutes?
How do I tell my grandkids? Well, I tell them, Steve, and I really mean this. I've witnessed greatness here today. I really have. Because that fight was one of the best fights I have ever seen. It was one of the most exciting fights, and we've seen a lot, Steve. We really have. The Calzaghes, the Ricky Hattons, the Carl Frotzes. We've seen them all. But that, and Anthony Joshua, that one with Klitschko, Fury with Klitschko in Germany. But we have seen some absolute classic encounters, but that's probably the most exciting that I can remember. Even the first one was a great fight, but it was that one round. This was 3 or 4 rounds that could have gone either way. So I'll sit back, I will tell my grandkids when I have them, and God pray that I do.
You will, son.
You know, I will say, I witnessed greatness tonight. A great boxer in Tyson Fury, a great contest, and a great opponent in Deontay Wilder. It was a tremendous contest,
Listen, Rich, that just about sums it up because it was special. It was a privilege. It's always a pleasure to work with you. Tyson Fury, what a way to make the first defence of your world heavyweight title. Surely there can't be a single person in the boxing world who could possibly have anything critical to say about the Gypsy King. Tyson Luke Fury, heavyweight champion of the world and the king of the gypsies.
Let's get ready to rumble! 5 Live Boxing.